count quickly 0-2 on him. And the reason why we say it's the bottom of the first is because on Friday, this game actually started over at Case Western Reserve. We got a half inning in. It's 1-0 St. Ignatius. As Zumuda watches a ball, 1-2. The rains came. The game was postponed, and here we are on Sunday afternoon, 1-0. Knights trailing. Zmuda, the first batter here in the bottom half of the first. Here he hits one back up the middle to second base. Rowbottom fields it, throws to first, and Zmuda is out. Rick Poland is my color commentator today. My name is Eric Halbert. Rick, let's take a look back to Friday, if we can, at that first half inning. One hit in that first half inning, which would eventually lead to a run.
Well, it's a walk that scored. They were able to put together a couple of hits that inning. Hit the ball hard early, but they were bailed out by that double play and a fine scoop down at first base by Matt Zmuda to prevent any further damage. Got them out of that inning with only one run.
This is Cody Lewis, the right fielder. Count goes to 1-1. They're hit to third. Cole Nito up with it, throws to first to retire Lewis. 2 up, 2 down.
I noticed that St. Ignatius is not throwing the ball around the infield, and they started the game about 7 minutes early. They have graduation today at 4 o'clock, and I think they're in a hurry to get there.
We shall see. Here's a look at the batting order for St. Francis. Zmuda, Lewis, Matt Zmuda, Drzwicki, Lyon, Oakley, Lankert, Wagner, and White. Here is Matt Zmuda. First baseman watches a ball, 1-0. And as you mentioned, a good scoop back in the first half of the first inning on Friday to turn that double play. A chopper. Towards third, Nito bare hands throws, but Zmuda beats it out in plenty of time for the first hit for the Knights.
Swinging bunt by Zmuda. Third baseman playing back with 2 outs. Just didn't have any chance. I'm surprised he even made the throw to first base. This is
Pensteris battles the wind in the sky and makes the catch, and the Knights are out. So 1 hit and a man left on, but failed to score. 1-0 our scores. We go to the top of 2. We left Case Western with St. Ignatius coach Brad Gaynor saying, all right, we'll do it at 8 o'clock Sunday night at Kent State. And here we are at noon at Cuyahoga Community College. So no question, but an interesting series of events since last Friday, or since a couple of days ago. Here's Josh Williams, the pitcher for St. Francis, facing the designated hitter, Quillen, Austria.
Well, on top of all that rain, I guess we're saying a lot of boats were changed midstream, huh?
Quite true, especially if you were trying to get on I-90.
Yes.
Coming out of Cleveland on Friday night. 2-0 now on Austria.
Well, we're happy to keep the turnpike in business with the extra tolls that have been paid by the Northwest Ohio faithful heading over here.
Williams gets a strike over, 2-1 now. And on a pitcher, I have to imagine you have to gear up for your start and then relax and then gear back up again. That's got to be difficult on guys like Williams.
Well, that's a good point.
There's a ball hit out in the center field. Austria's on with a single.
One of the things, though, that Williams probably could use as an advantage is that he suffered through that tough inning and only gave up 1 run and had some time to think about how he might approach things.
They take a look at St. Ignatius batting order. Row bottom scoring the only run of the game back in that first inning. There is a change in the 3-hole. Connor Hennessy, who started the game on Friday, not playing today. Shane Sprovic is in that spot, playing left field. First pitch from Williams to Pansteris, the catcher, strike. Throw over, Austria back. And again, that mental focus, not just for the pitchers, but for the teams. And you mentioned Ignatius has graduation later today. Has to be an interesting process. Ball in the dirt, skips up. Wagner blocks it, but not before Austria can make it down to second.
Well, he was going on the pitch, and we mentioned at the onset of the first game, I don't know how much of that might be had been dispersed here, but this is a running team. This team loves to run. They have a lot of stolen bases. They will go almost at will when they get the chance.
There's a point, and it hits Pansteris. Looks to be okay. So
you know what? It looked like to me he bunted through this ball, and if he offered at it before the ball hit him, it's got to be a strike. And that's what Coach Gherkin is going to say.
That's exactly what Coach Gherkin is arguing here with the home plate umpire, is that he kept the bat out and offered. There's a lot at the defense for St. Francis. Michael Wagner makes up the battery with Williams. The Smuda brothers in the infield along with Lankard and Oakley. Lyon, White, and Lewis in the outfield. Coach Gherkin loses the argument. He goes back to the dugout. This is the number 9 hitter, Joe Corey, for the Wildcats.
And St. Francis has to put a play on here for their bunt defense with runners at first and second with nobody out. You would expect that, but this is a pretty hefty looking number 9 hitter here.
You're implying he's got some power.
Yeah, I'm implying that they may not bunt this guy. He doesn't look like the bunting type to me, but you have to, and St. Francis is unsure about what they want to do here now.
A little quick confab with Williams and Wagner. You mentioned the unique facility in that the infield is similar to Mercy Field back in Holland. But again, the outfield grass surface, you got to wonder what kind of hops you get if it hits a seam.
Well, it'll get through the infield a little quicker than really slow down when it gets out the outfield. Well,
answers your question right there, Rick Boland, if he's bunting or not.
And he really kind of pushed at it. I think he's probably someone who has not been called on to bunt a whole lot in his career. But in high school, everybody has to be able to bunt. There's a lot of wipe-offs on the arm there from the third base coach. I think they may have wiped off the bunt sign.
Williams taking his time, turns, no one covering second, but it does send Austria back to the bag.
And it does kind of give a little indication of what the batter might be doing. He didn't square around, but he did drop his hands a little bit, so he may still be bunting, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, you see, he's just not a bunter. He's poking at the ball, and we've discussed the bunting techniques before. You catch the ball with the bat, you don't push at it.
Fouling both those bunt attempts off, 0-2. Safe to assume he is no longer bunting. It's a ball high, 1-2, with a bit of a stiff breeze today, blowing out towards right field.
Yeah, it'll help a ball hit out into the outfield area. It should carry pretty well. 400 to straightaway center, so it's a deep shot. 3:30 down the lines.
There's swing and a miss by Corey. He goes down on strikes for the first out of the inning. A much needed out with 2 runners on. And we go back to the top of the lineup. Rowbottom.
Nice pitch right there. An off-speed breaking pitch.
And Coach Gherkin going to take time out. And if you followed St. Francis baseball, you're used to seeing this. Coach Gherkin has worn a path out to that mound, and they're going to get somebody up in the bullpen. It looks like Kenzie Mayo here in the bottom half of the first inning will go to the bullpen. We've seen St. Francis go with 5 pitchers, 7 pitchers, and 1 pitcher with Max Lyon in that district game. So he's not afraid to make a change, as we've seen many times now.
Interesting watching a left-hand hitter in the batter's box trying to go through the charade of smoothing out with the batter's box. There's not a whole lot more smoothing you can do in that AstroTurf or that prescription turf.
That ritual of writing something in the dirt, all but gone here today.
Well, Coach Gherkin also remembers what happened with these leadoff hitters 2 days ago. And I think he wanted to give some reminders to his defense, plus get a guy warmed up, because if these guys start to tee off again like they did on Friday, he's going to be quick to pull.
First pitch, a ball to Rowbottom. Pitch outside, 2-0. As we said on Friday, Rowbottom is headed to Illinois to play baseball.
He hit a rocket his first time up on Friday and scored the first and only run. Sent the runners that time. Little hit and run action. Again, they like to run. They like to put the pressure on the defense.
Fouls off that pitch, 2-1.
Dare I say this is a very confident team?
I think that's safe to say. Another foul ball. Count evens out, 2-2.
See, I think this would be huge for Williams if he can get the leadoff hitter, because he's the guy that started things off on Friday. And I think he knows if he wants to stay in this game, he's going to have to bear down with these top 3 or 4 guys that kind of touched him up a little bit.
And here he puts one over the shortstop's head out to left center field. Around comes Austria in to score. And it's 2-0 Ignatius on the RBI single by Rowbottom.
Well, he waited on a breaking pitch, kept his hands back, and slapped that ball the other way, let the ball get in on him. Read the spin nicely. And he's got 2 line drives in the book already. Took him 2 days between at bats.
There's Tyler Finkler hitting in the 2-hole, the shortstop. Watches a ball, 1-0. Finkler had a single back on Friday in the top of the first. Runners taking off, hit and run. Finkler hits it to center field. Caught by Joey White for 1, to throw back to second for 2. And the Knights,
how about that?
A nice double play to get out of the inning and avoid any further damage. But St. Ignatius does scratch out another run. 2-0 our score. We go to the bottom of 2. Back out to Cuyahoga Community College, 2-0 our score. St. Ignatius on top of St. Francis in this regional final. Max Lyon leading things off here for the Knights. Fouled off the first pitch, 0-1. Lyon pitched these Knights into the regional final with a win over Perrysburg at Bowling Green State University. Watches a ball, 1-1.
How about St. Francis coming up again with a big double play, Eric, to bail him out of some big trouble.
And Lyon hits one to third, but a diving third baseman, Cole Nito, flashes the leather, much to the delight of this Ignatius crowd, and there is one down.
Well, tough break for St. Francis and for Lyon. Hits this ball right on the nose. Nice diving stab by Nito. I guess that's a Nito catch.
To use 1950s parlance, of course it was. Andy Oakley, the second baseman, watches a strike 0-1. There's a curveball that misses, 1-1. We have yet to talk about the St. Ignatius pitcher, Nick Margovich's. There's Oakley, pops one out to right. St. Ignatius can't make the catch. 1-2. Margovich's is a junior who is 8-0 this year. His last outing came in the district final where he won a complete game, gave up 5 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and struck out 7.
And they've been on a big winning streak. They started off 5-5, and they've lost 1 game since.
Winners of 20 of 21. Not bad. One of those wins over St. John's in the Jesuit tournament. Oakley fouls it off again. Count remains 2-2.
Margovich is not a strong pitcher from the speed standpoint. He's not a power arm, but he's got a pretty good fastball that he spots and moves the ball in and out and changes speeds.
Oakley again pops it up to right field. This time it'll remain fair, but Nick Longo makes the catch. 2 up, 2 down. Nick Lankard now coming to the plate for the Knights.
He'll give you opportunities to put the ball in play. He likes to, they use their defense, and it's a strong defense as we've seen so far. So he's not afraid to let you hit the baseball.
First pitch swinging, Lankard fouls it off, out of play.
But it's going to be his pitch on his terms if he can help it at all. And he'll try and get ahead of you and then work the corners.
Lankard back up the middle. Fielded by the shortstop off the mound, Finkler to first. And the Knights go 1, 2, 3 here in the second. We go to the top of 3. Ignatius with a 2-0 lead. Back out to Parma, and a pitching change here for the St. Francis Knights. Kenzie Mayo starting things off here on the hill in the 3rd inning for the Knights. He is facing, well, it was Hennessy to start the game back on Friday. Now it's Shane Skrovic. Count 2-1 here on Skrovic, who is in left field. Make it 3-1.
There's got to be an interesting story in there someplace. I'd be dying to hear it.
Yeah, the Ignatius coach is not really divulging what happened to Hennessy. And Hennessy, you talk about the speed, Rick Poland. Ball hit to short, scooped up by Zmuda over to his brother, 1 down. Hennessy has 28 stolen bases, all-time school record. And again, not in the lineup here for the second part of the day. Here comes Fabian, who has moved over into center field, and Fabian singled back in that 1st inning on Friday. Mayo skips one in, 1-0.
Well, St. Francis had graduation last night, so there's probably some guys out there that had to make it an early evening because they had to get up early to head over here today for this game. So it really hasn't been an easy weekend for either team when it comes to the activities surrounding this game.
That one just misses, 3-0.
But when it comes to state regional finals, this has got to be considered very important. important.
And Mayo walks Fabian on 4 straight pitches. You know, it was really an incredible process, Rick Poland. We were sticking around after the rainout on Friday to see where they would play, and it turned into a negotiation that got a little...
Intense negotiation.
Yeah, it got a little uncomfortable, actually. As I mentioned, we left Case Western thinking this game would be played at 8 o'clock at Kent State tonight, but... And their ball pops out of the glove of Wagner, and the runner, Fabian, makes it down to second with a stolen base.
Not so sure he didn't have that base stolen anyway. But boy, you're really asking for trouble when you walk these guys. That's just pouring fuel on their offensive fire.
1-1 now on Longo.
As we mentioned, they like to run, so you give them a free base. They'll say, okay, well, I'll turn that into 2.
Longo drills one out in the left center field. That's going to get over the head and past Joey White. Here comes Fabian rounding third into home. Longo stretching, gonna try for a third triple, and he's in there. He slid, didn't need to. An RBI triple for Longo, and it's now 3-0 St. Ignatius.
Well, the walk just sets the table. Longo goes with the pitch, drives it into left center field. It rolls all the way to the wall, and Longo with good speed. He didn't even hesitate. He knew he was going to go for 3 all the way. He dives into third base with a triple. And so far it's been a running inning for St. Ignatius.
You look at this roster, and just about every other player is headed to play college baseball somewhere. Longo's going to Miami University. This is Cole Nito, the third baseman, who made that catch. Oh, and he hits Mayo, and Mayo goes down in pain. The run scores, but more important question right now is, how is Kenzie Mayo?
Boy, it hit him in the glove hand, but I'm not so sure it hit the glove. He just went down. It's like just that ball shot out of a cannon right back at you. And the infield was in.
While they tend to Kenzie Mayo, we will step aside. 3-0 our score in the third, St. Ignatius.
Hothead burrito.
Back out to Parma, and the best news that we have so far, Mayo back on the hill, ready to pitch. It looked like he got hit in his glove hand, threw a couple of warm-up pitches. He is okay, and once again, the run did score, so it is now 4-0 St. Ignatius here in the third.
Yeah, that ball took off towards the foul line, so the runner, see this pitch is going to be hit right back at him, and he just went right down, and we think from his gesturing to the trainer that the ball did hit into the glove. It didn't hit him on the exposed area of his arms, which probably would have necessitated him leaving the game, but it's very scary. These guys really pound the baseball.
Throw back down to first from the catcher, Wagner. Forces Nito to dive back. Count 1-1 here on Austria, the designated hitter.
This is a very focused St. Ignatius team when it comes to their offense. We talked about their defense, but this offense, very strong. A lot of different, they use the tools that they have. They're a good line drive hitting team. Probably not a very power hitting team, but they use the hit and run, steal, pressure on the defense, and spray the ball. There they go again.
Hit and run. Diving attempt by Lankard. He can't come up with it. Nito coming to third. And Austria is on with a double.
And he was thinking double all the way. Hit and run. Ball's pulled down the left field line. And with the runner moving at first base, even with the ball hit in front of him, he's able to cruise into third base easily. And they have another runner at third base with less than 2 outs, and St. Francis will probably have to pull the infield in again.
This is Pansteris, the catcher. He was hit by a pitch, squaring to bunt.
Although they are playing back at short and second at the pitch out. They thought that maybe the squeeze might be on. Either the suicide or the safety. Infield's back. St. Francis will give up a run up the middle. I'll tell you, here they come now. Now they're creeping in.
This ball hit hard out in center field. White going back, and it's over his head to the fence. 2 runs will score. Pansteris motoring, stand up triple, and it's now 6-0 St. Ignatius in this regional final.
As I mentioned, they're very aggressive hitters. They hit the ball hard. That ball he was just looking to hit a fly ball, and that started off as maybe just a fly out RBI, but it got up in that jet stream that we talked about and just kept carrying and carrying. He hit it well, but it got a lot of help too. And this team just hits the ball hard and puts it in play hard. Not too many mishits on this team.
No, and we'll have action once again in the St. Francis bullpen as we're accustomed to seeing. And you know, Rick Poland, you and I did the Three Rivers Athletic Conference championship game between St. Francis and Central Catholic. And this is a bit of a similar start for the Knights, which is something they don't want to see. It's a ball to Corey, the number 9 hitter.
They've gone around the order already. This is the second time at bat for the number 9 hitter. Last time he was called upon to try to bunt.
There he hits it back up the middle. Diving stab by Oakley out in second. All he can do is knock it down, and the run scores on the RBI single for Corey. Now 7-0 St. Ignatius here in the third.
He joins the hit parade. His last time up, he struck out after 2 failed bunt attempts. This time he hits the ball hard up the middle. Nice job by Oakley to knock the ball down, but he had no play after that.
The biggest zero-interest lot in the region for everyone.
Back out here in Parma, 8-0 our score in the regional final. And here's a perfect bunt by St. Ignatius, allows a run to score, make that 9-0 St. Ignatius here in the third.
Well, they're saying we don't have to hit line drives to score runs. We'll just lay down a perfect suicide squeeze. St. Francis was looking for that earlier. This time they got it.
We didn't even have time to tell you that McCoy Druzwicki is now the new pitcher for St. Francis. Kenzie Mayo, much like Josh Williams before him, pitched their final innings as St. Francis Knights, as they are both seniors, both graduated yesterday. Druzwicki, also a senior, throws a strike to Skrovic. We've now batted around in the Ignatius lineup here in the third. And now, if you're Coach Tim Gherkin, you're thinking, what can you do to make this a little bit longer than a 5-inning game with the run rule looming and a hit batter here. The first batter, the second batter that Druzwicki has faced.
Well, right now, your best chance is to somehow try to find whoever's got the hot hand out of that bullpen to take the sting out of the St. Ignatius bat. So far, haven't been able to find that hot hand as the St. Ignatius team continues to blister the baseball. And you kind of hope that maybe these different looks that you're throwing at them might slow their offense down a little bit. So far, that hasn't worked, but you keep trying.
This is Nick Fabian playing in center. Walked his first time up in this inning. Ended up scoring, had a stolen base. There goes the runner from second on to third. The ball in the dirt. Wagner has to block it. That allows the runner from first to go down to second, who got a late start, maybe missed a sign, but in any event, runners in scoring position with only one down.
Well, they move up in a lot of different ways. They don't need any help in that regard, and when you do give them help on pass balls and wild pitches, they just tee off on you because, again, one out and a runner on third.
Speaking of teeing off, this one blasted out in the left field line, going back, and another one off the fence. This will score two. Fabian walks into third with a 2 RBI triple. And the hits and runs just keep on coming.
Well, he got another one up in the breeze, hit very, very high to left field, hits right at the base of the wall, and because of the height of that ball, he's able to cruise into third base. But this team, they have good speed. Just they're a quick team. Not very often you see a team that's this speedy that's also hits with that much power. So far, nothing has been fooling these St. Ignatius hitters.
Here's Longo. He had a triple earlier in this inning. Scored a run. We talked about it before. You look at this Ignatius lineup and just about everybody playing college baseball, and you can definitely see why. 0-2 here on Longo. And as you would expect, you look over at the St. Francis dugout, and the wind just out of their sails, heads down, bewilderment even.
Well, you're looking for answers. You know, you put together your fine season too, your long winning streak, and you've played, you know, against some good competition, and you've been a confident team all year too. But your confidence level just dwindles in a hurry when you run up against a team that's as hot as St. Ignatius is right now, and as well as they're seeing the baseball, they're hitting the ball as well as a team that I've seen from a high school team in a long time.
Extra base hits all over the place. These aren't just seeing eye singles, these are blasts off the bat of these Wildcats. Unofficially, I count 4 triples in this third inning alone. This ball hit straight up out into right field. Lewis coming in. He'll make the catch. The runner tagging. The throw, not in time. And it's 12-0 on the sac fly by Longo.
Well, one of the few miss hits, I guess you might say, although he got the job done. He was trying to lift that ball, trying to get it out into the green to get that run in from third base with less than 2 outs. Very good situational hitting team. 12 runs and 12 hits. That's making them count, Eric.
That's no question. And Cole Nito has one of those hits. The third baseman fouls it off here, 0-1. He had a single earlier this inning, scored a run. Nito headed real close to here in Parma. Baldwin Wallace over in Berea after he's finished here at St. Ignatius. Nito, a senior, will graduate in about 2 hours and 45 minutes.
The way they're attacking this game, they want to get there early.
This is true. Nito skies it out in center field. Joey White, plenty of time, makes the catch, and finally, mercifully, the third inning comes to an end, but not after 10 runs have been scored. Ignatius has a 12-0 lead going into the bottom of the third in this regional final. Back out to Parma, Ohio, Cuyahoga Community College. Say that 3 times fast, Rick Poland. 1-1 count on Michael Wagner as the Knights have a massive uphill climb down 12-0. And Wagner lines it to shortstop. Row bottom puts it away calmly, 1 down.
Well, and that's the way it goes when it's not going well. You have difficulties holding down the other team, and then when you do hit the ball hard, you hit it right at them. That's 2 line drives that found infielders' gloves for St. Francis.
Joey White now, the number 9 hitter for the Knights, takes a strike. 0-1 from Margovich's.
And this will be his first or second plate appearance. First plate appearance. I think their number 9 hitter will be coming up for the 3rd time. So they're getting around the order. And when you keep turning the order over like that to your really good hitters, and St. Ignatius has really good hitters at the top.
This one chopped back to the pitcher. Margovich is off the mound. Soft toss to first for the out. 2 up, 2 down.
And once again, the throw goes right back to the pitcher. You know what? They came out here today, again, very confidently, and said, we're going to come out here. We're going to get this game over with. We're going to go and graduate. And it seems like everything is falling into place for him.
Eric Smuda swings at the first pitch. Ball headed out to right field. And Longo cannot come up with it. 0-1. And, you know, this is all about Twitter nowadays, Rick Poland, because I'm sure you're into the Twitter. But on the Twitter page for the St. Ignatius baseball team, it said on the bus ride back on Friday night after the Case Western rainout that Coach Gaynor made an impassioned speech to his team. And that maybe set the tone for what's happening today. 1-1 now on Smuda. Here a blast out in center field, but Fabian back to make the catch. 3 up, 3 down for the Knights. We go to the 4th. Ignatius up 12-0. Back out to Tri-C, and that is not an error on the scoreboard. It is 12-0 here in the 4th inning. St. Ignatius on top in this regional final in Parma, Ohio. McCoy Druzwicki starting things off here in the 4th on the hill for St. Francis, facing Austria. Throws him a strike with the first pitch. Second pitch, Bender stays up there, 1-1. And Austria has a single and a double and 2 runs scored in this game. That is what you want out of your designated hitter, Rick Poland.
Yeah, when you've got that DH next to your name, that comes with some baggage. Everybody expects you to swing the hot bat, get the big hit.
This one fouled off out of play, 2-2.
That's basically what you're expected to do. So it's not an easy job.
Again, Druzwicki having issues with the breaking ball. Count runs full.
And that's not a good sign, because this team feasts on fastballs, although we've seen them turn around a couple of curveballs too. But if they can sit back and just wait on the fastball, we got them to chase it.
Strikes him out, throw a little high as the ball got in the dirt, but Matsumoto comes down with it, and Austria's retired. That brings up Pensteris.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the first time they've gotten the leadoff hitter.
You are correct, sir.
It's been a long time. It's been 2 days. It's taken us 2 days to play 3 innings.
I had to go back over 2 days of numbers. Strike in from Druzwicki. Count evens out at 1-1.
They're at bats. And they get that 13th run on the board to match their 13 hits. And they're just kind of keeping, matching those runs per hit right along. It's been a tremendous offensive display.
Foul ball, 0-2 on Rowbottom, and safe to say the Knights nor their fans have seen any kind of display of offensive prowess as they're seeing today here in Parma. Ball up high, 1-2.
I want to get a shout out to some people that have
A shout out, Rick
shout
Poland.
out, yes, a shout out. To, there's people that like, that come up to us after games and talk
Sure.
about how much they like the fact that we were able to present these games and so forth, and it's always nice to hear from them. So, Dr. Brenda Hartley, she
on your cam up on third base dugout, Rick Poland, as you give your shout out.
Oh, okay. Dr. Brenda Hartley, her son Drew DeMarkowski is a football player at St. Francis. She said she stayed up, watched that whole game that we did with St. Francis and Central, and so I thought, well, geez, that's pretty good because they were getting beat
I
by
was saying,
Central.
God bless her. That was a tough game for St. Francis.
Yeah. And Gabe Medina, one of the fine coaches in the area from over at Owens for a long time, and the Medina Baseball Academy. He's mentioned how great it is to be able to watch all these fine young high school players, and he gets to scout some of these guys by watching us. So, that's nice to know that the people are liking what we do.
Another ball absolutely blistered off the bat. This time only a single, however, for Rowbottom. Tyler Finkler comes to bat. He already has a couple of singles in this game.
Well, we've seen clotheslines, frozen ropes, whatever you want to call them, sprayed all over this field and Case Western before we moved over this field.
Finkler is headed to play college ball as well as he chops it foul, and he will be a teammate of a guy we know in our area, Northwest Ohio, Jake Rudnicki at Ohio University. Check over to first, Rowbottom back in.
The other day when I was driving over to Case Western, stopped at the rest stop and ran into Joey White's parents, Mr. and Mrs. White, and they said how great it is to have this opportunity for their kids to play. There he goes down to second on that. Probably goes a wild pitch in the dirt.
Another runner in scoring position here for the Wildcats.
But we're happy to bring these games too, right, Eric? I mean, this is a lot of fun.
It's a great time, obviously, not, this game notwithstanding, but it's nice to be able to bring it to the kids and parents. I notice you're not giving a shout out to the people who complain. In television, we get those too. There's a throw low. Wagner does a good job to stop that one. 2-1.
Fortunately, those are few and far between, and usually involving something that is nondescript anyway.
This ball belted out to left field. Lyon going back over his head. Another off the fence. Finkler pulls in his second with another RBI, and it is 14-0 Wildcats.
Well, I said uh-oh because I thought when that left the bat that was also leaving the ballpark, because it appeared that he may have gotten all of that. But with the aluminum bat, the sound is just the same no matter how you hit it. He may have, this may sound funny, but he may have just gotten it off the barrel just a tad. But he rang the fence again. We've had a couple just hit the fence on the fly. Ball's hit hard.
This is Shane Skrovic.
I mean, we are just seeing an offensive display here that I don't think we've ever seen on BCSN as far as at this level of play. There he goes. to third base.
Hit and run, Drewswicki fields the comebacker, throws over the first. Drewswicki obviously disgusted, but it does get him out of the inning. 14-0 our score as we go to the bottom of 4. And a long drive turning into a long day for St. Francis supporters here in Parma. Down 14-0 as we start the 4th inning. Cody Lewis leading things off for the Knights. And Lewis rips it back.
There you go.
Out to center field for a single. Matt Zmuda coming up.
Well, a hard hit ball finally gets through for St. Francis. Only their second hit. They've hit some balls hard, but they've hit the atom balls right at guys, and St. Ignatius has found the holes. And a little more consistently hard hit balls.
Lewis is senior, playing in his final game. There's Matt Zmuda. Swings and misses, gets behind the catcher Pansteris briefly, but not enough for Lewis to take off. He remains at first.
He's kind of upset with himself that he chased the breaking ball, first pitch breaking ball in the dirt. He knows that he needs to be a little bit more patient, but tell he's going to really focus on one here. The St. Francis team is going to go down hard.
Foul out of play, or off the screen, 1 and 2.
Well, they have a lot of pride, and the one thing they want to do, first of all, they want to dent that scoreboard, get that first run, and work from there.
Pick off play. Lewis back in plenty of time.
Can get a little daunting for a team when they look up and see that 14. You just have to not concern yourself with the scoreboard. There you go.
Good job by Zmuda to wait on that one and punch it out in the right field. And the first 2 batters are on for the Knights here in the 4th inning.
And I think that's probably the approach that they're taking right now. I'm sure that discussion was held. Hey, don't even look at that scoreboard. Let's just play our game. Let's put some runs on. We're going to have a pinch runner here for Zmuda.
Pick number 7, Michael Baugh, a junior. Umpire making his change. You know, we've talked about this field a couple of times. Rick Poland, Ron Model Field, 330 down in left, 400 out in center, 325 in right. The Tri-C Challengers play here. They are members of the OCCAC, and we know a little bit about that with Owens Community College, also in that same conference. The field was rededicated just last month after they had all these improvements here to the infield. And if you're asking yourself, who's Ron Model? Are you asking yourself that, Rick Poland?
I'm asking you.
Okay, Ron Model was a state rep for 10 years from the Cleveland area. As Drewswicki watches a ball, 1-0.
Probably responsible for getting some of those state funds directed here to build this community college.
Also played baseball at Notre Dame back in the 50s. Foul ball, 1-1. The field is actually 35 years old itself, but with the improvements.
Oh, that's a young 35.
Looks good for its age, doesn't it?
Well, it is beautiful. Nice brickwork on the dugouts and the press box. This field turf on the interior, on the infield. Got that two-tone green.
Another ball, 3-1 here to Drewswicki.
I'm sure they have some more things they want to do here. They have the bullpen area closed off with pylons. That's out of play. I'm sure that's going to be enclosed down the road.
This ball fouled out of play. The Ignatius fans ducking and covering. Everyone okay. Down goes full to Drewswicki. Here Druswicki hits one out in the left. Wind carries it just a bit. Ranging back is Strovic. He'll put it away for the first out of the inning.
Well, unfortunately, he got it down on the handle a little bit. Just didn't quite get the fat of the bat on it.
This is Max Lyon hitting on the 5-hole. He hit that liner to third back in the second that Nito made that diving stab for. Here he takes a strike. He wasn't too sure about that one. Umpire was 0-1.
Well, he'd like to deliver here with one out. Runners at first and second. Got some good speed out there.
And he pops one out into center. Catch made by Fabian. Lewis bluffed. And he'll stay at second. 2 down now for Oakley.
Well, because we are a little bit closer to the Cleveland area, there are a lot of St. Ignatius fans here, and we're on the St. Ignatius side of the field. They're behind us, and they are behind their team, aren't they?
Well, I'm sure there's probably more family in town as well, since graduation is later today, as Oakley swings and misses. 0-1.
Well, speaking of family in town, as we're driving in, walking down the sidewalk of the campus with the dog, your wife's grandfather.
That was bizarre. 1-1 here to Oakley.
That you've never seen here. You've always seen him at your place in Bowling Green.
That's true. Papa Louie walking the dog.
There's Papa Louie. I'm driving along. He said, stop. There's my Papa Louie. I thought, what the heck?
Ball in the dirt. Pansteras with stop. Runners can't move. 2-1.
So we stopped. You hopped out of the car and scared Papa Louie.
I did scare him a little bit. Papa Louie tight with San Martigliano, the former Cleveland Browns coach. Here's Oakley, hits it over to short. The flip over to second. And the Knights threaten but do not score. We go to the top of 5, 14-0. Ignatius on top. And the St. Francis fans can barely watch 14-0 in this regional final out here in Parma. As we start the 5th inning, a new pitcher for the Knights, as we're used to seeing. Another senior throwing in his final ball game in a St. Francis uniform, Matt Gustafson. Like the 3 pitchers before him, graduated yesterday. Now in this final inning as a Knight. He'll face Fabian, who tripled, walked and scored a couple of runs, singled back on Friday. Gustafson's first pitch of ball.
Normally, you wouldn't think facing Fabian would be that daunting of a task. This is a little different Fabian.
I get your reference, Rick Poland, but I'm guessing the kids are going to have to Google.
Yes. Well, we'll make them work.
This ball fouled out of play, 2-1.
I know there's a few people out there that will know who I'm referencing.
Sure.
Without having to Google.
I'm going to guess Tom Cole will be first.
Tom Cole will be one. Yep.
He'll be singing at home.
He's probably breaking out the 45s as we speak.
You might have to Google what a 45 is. Too.
That's right.
2-2.
That's a shame, you know.
Yeah. There's a bender. Fabian waits on. He lifts it out in center field. And what else is new? And Fabian, not content with a single, going to try to take second. And he's thrown out. So he'll get the single. Thrown out at second. And you think if you're a St. Francis fan, you're probably a little disgusted by that. But
well, you know what? I think he saw maybe an opportunity because the shortstop, second baseman, center fielder all converged on that, and he thought that there was an opening at second base, but a good recovery defensively by St. Francis, able to nip him at second. But this is a very aggressive team. We've seen this from the get-go, and they haven't picked the foot off the pedal.
2-0 here on Longo. Longo's been productive. Sack fly. in the fourth. A triple, scored a run in the third, and a walk back on Friday. Here the count goes 2-1 on it.
You think these guys know you got to put a 45 on a turntable?
I think they know what 2 turntables and a microphone is, though. Foul ball, 2-2. Strange journey for the Knights. Back on Friday, extremely humid. Their bus, the air conditioning conked out, windows fogged up, coaches and players wiping them off in transit. This ball dribbled out to first. Not sure why Longo dove into first after Smuda stepped on the bag, but we'll leave that up to him. 2 down. This is Nito.
Yeah, how would you like to have one of your starters jam their finger and wrist into the first base in a 14-0 game just prior to the start of the state finals?
Ball chop foul. Yeah, that was back on Friday on their turnpike, and Coach Gherkin said with the windows so fogged up, the bus driver had a hard time seeing, and they had to slam on the brakes. Everybody okay, except for the bus. They had to send that back and get a new one after they started the game, and the downpour had to stop it. 1-1 now on Nito.
Well,
obviously this is not the result they were looking for,
no.
but a weekend they will never forget. There's a bender,
nice pitch
from Gustafson. 1-2 here on Nito.
Boy, that was a nice pitch by Gustafson. He bore down. He got nice spin and change of speed on that breaking pitch.
Another ball fouled off. 1-2. As we mentioned before, Nito headed to Baldwin Wallace. And the whole process, as we mentioned before, of deciding where to play after that game on Friday was postponed was interesting. The arguments about, to wear spikes or not wear spikes. They even talked about playing back at Mercy Field. But ultimately, we ended up here at Tri-C in Parma. Ball low, 2-2.
Well, then they also talk about maybe Monday.
Yes, there was. I guess the state wanted them to play the game as soon as possible. And with that in mind, that's why we're here today, even with graduation. A ball hit to Gustafson. He fields his position, throw over to Smuda. And for the first time in 3 days, St. Ignatius goes 1-2-3. St. Francis, one last shot, bottom of the 5th coming up.
Gives you a sense of mental.
The St. Francis Knights down to their final swings if they want to get this, extend this regional final past 5 innings. This is Nick Lankard. Lankard did not graduate yesterday. He's only a sophomore. Here he pops up the shortstop. Tyler Finkler fields it. 1 down. So Lankard at least getting a taste of what it's like to make a deep run in the state tournament as a sophomore. Maybe pass that along to some of his underclassmen as they come back next year.
Well, and the whole season is something that, I know that there's only one team in the whole state that's going to have a happy ending. One team will not end the season on a losing note, and it could be St. Ignatius. As good as they've looked today.
They keep hitting like this, they're going to win it all.
So you look at the whole season and take the season as a whole and go all the way back to the start when you were on your spring trip and how things all kind of came together starting then, and you put together that nice winning streak and you won a district title, and those are all positives that not too many other teams can say happened to them this season.
Swing and a miss by the catcher, Michael Wagner, another senior. Count runs full. on what is most likely his final at-bat as a Knight.
And this senior group has done such a nice job, and they were picked to finish in the middle of the pack, and they came through undefeated, which I didn't think anybody would be able to do. So there's a lot of positive things to take away from this season for the Knights.
Wagner earns the walk. He plays the double role of catcher and then comes on as closer. Been solid and one of the best for the Knights all year. Here comes Joey White. White grounded out to the pitcher his first time up. And he takes a strike.
And if you play enough and you go deep enough, you're going to come across a team that's just better than you on that particular day. And you got to take your hats off to this St. Ignatius team. They're just a solid team up and down offensively and defensively. And what a fantastic offensive display that we've seen over a 2-day period. They started off hot on Friday. See that pitch there by Margavicius, and we haven't even talked that much about him. He's just been workmanlike out here. 3-hit shutout to this point, and it all starts in the middle.
There's Wagner taking off.
Well,
he's on second. Now,
he wasn't being held on.
I was going to say, was
yeah,
that a catcher's indifference?
That would be an indifference play right there, with the first baseman playing behind the runner at first.
Eric Smuda fouls it off, out of play.
And how appropriate is this? Right now we have Eric Zamuda at the plate with 2 outs. He's got one more opportunity to drive in a run here. Be nice to see him lace one into the outfield, wouldn't it?
Smuda and his twin brother will play at Denison. And here he blasts one out into center field, going back, and making the catch is Nick Fabian, and it's all over. St. Ignatius wins this regional final on a run rule. 14-0 over the St. Francis Knights.
Boy, he put a charge into that ball. I thought that ball was going to get over his head for sure, especially with the wind, but a big win here for St. Ignatius. They just came out and got the job done.
14-0 once again our score in the regional final. We'll take a break and wrap things up after this timeout.
Are giving back to schools in the...
Back out one final time to Parma Cuyahoga Community College, Ron Model Field, where the St. Ignatius Wildcats defeat St. Francis 14-0 in this regional final. And Rick Poland, obviously not what we expected, not what Tim Gherkin expected, and not what the St. Francis Knights expected.
Well, no, you never expect to come out and have this happen to you, especially, the St. Francis team that's played so well this year. But they ran into a buzzsaw that was a very determined and, as we mentioned, quote, confident St. Ignatius team that was on a roll of their own coming into this tournament. And boy, they've just one of the hottest hitting high school teams I've ever seen. What a great offensive display. But hey, the St. Francis Knights, hats off to them. A great season. Got to the regional finals, and they've got a lot to be proud of from this season.
A 10-run third inning by Ignatius with 4 triples proved to be too much to overcome for the Knights, who had to go through 2 days to get this regional final played. For our crew in the truck, Chris, Brandon, Craig, and Hillary, and our guys on camera, John, Jeremy, Matt. My partner, Rick Poland. We want to remind you today's coverage brought to you in high definition by Nationwide Auto Finance, the biggest zero-interest lot in the region. My name is Eric Hobart, reminding you the final score once again in this regional final, St. Ignatius 14, St. Francis 0.